Iran's supreme leader, Khomeini, has just been whisked away to a secure, undisclosed location. Well, couldn't have happened to a nicer Ayatollah. What's happening? Well, it looks like Iran is a bit on fire. It's having a bit of an issue. So let's have a look at some news coverage on this. Not this site. Maybe this site though. That's a little different. Iran's dual challenge: unrest at home, threat from strikes from abroad. I think this one might be a decent choice. Oh, never mind. It's fucking limited. All right, well, that's off to a great start. No future for us. Disaffected Iranians say it's now or never to topple the regime. Ailing economy sparks biggest uprising in years, with protesters saying it's time to hit regime when it's at its weakest. 50 cities, as far as I read, and that was a few days ago, have riots. Initially, it was one. I saw it and I thought, maybe that would be regime change. It's small at first. Now 50, I mean now, it's a few days ago, 50, and it's across the whole country. I've got a little bit of footage, but we'll get some more as well. So this is The Guardian, so expect them to have a lefty tinge, but we'll try and cut through it. Naturally, this is probably their best chance. The mullahs are fleeing disguised as civvies. Good. Much like with Venezuela, say what you want about the motive, say what you want about Israel benefiting from it. It's better for the people in the country and probably for the world as a whole. So it goes on. Menaz was too young to protest when Masha Amini died in police custody 3 years ago after she was arrested for allegedly wearing the hijab improperly. Her mother did not let her join the throngs of crowd chanting "Woman, Life, Freedom" in Tehran and across the country. They obviously have quite a feminist bent with this article. So she could only watch at home as they were beaten back by batons and bullets. Since then, the 19-year-old computer science student in Tehran has waited for the chance to join fellow Iranians in protest. On Sunday, the moment finally came. A sudden nosedive in the value of Iran's currency was the final blow to a population growing tired of being patient under an ailing economy. Thank you, Delta Force. Protests soon began in Tehran and spread, kicking off the country's biggest protests in years, some of which have turned deadly. At least 10 people have been killed by violence surrounding the protests, with 2 new deaths occurring overnight. Quote, "Despite my mother's fears, I joined in on protests on Wednesday. They execute and arrest us anyway. So people now think if they continue to kill us when we are not even on the streets in protest, why the fuck are we waiting for the right moment?" said Menaz, speaking under a pseudonym for fear of repercussions. The demonstration started with merchants closing their shops in protest against deteriorating economic conditions and have spread from Tehran to about 32 cities across the country. What began as a movement to express economic grievances has widened in scope, with protesters chanting against the Iranian government. Students and activists have begun chanting "Death to the Dictator," referring to the 86-year-old Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, and "Woman, Life, Freedom," echoing the 2022 protests that paralyzed Iran. Not much to commentate, yeah. I mean, I think it's just good. It's a dictatorial, authoritarian Islamic regime. I am not in support of it, if that wasn't obvious. So the people rising up against it is pretty much the best way to deal with it. You didn't need another country to come in and orchestrate this. There's probably subversion behind the scenes, granted, but I expect it's mostly the people doing this. At the same time, Iranian human rights activists, as the protests have grown, as the protests have grown, so has the government's concern. Iran's president, the reformist Masoud Pezeshkian, initially announced he had instructed authorities to listen to the legitimate demands of protesters and said he was seeking dialogue with protest leaders. At the same time, Iranian human rights groups alleged security forces have used deadly force against protesters. The New York-based Center for Human Rights in Iran said on Friday that 8 protesters have been killed by state security forces and dozens more injured. At least 119 people have been arrested for their involvement in protests, according to the human rights activists news agency. Reza, a 20-year-old university student. A lot of personal stuff here from The Guardian. Let's have a look at the BBC's coverage, which is... actually, we'll go... so New York Times is talking about unrest at home and threats of strikes from abroad. So a little bit different here. Let's see what they have. Officials said that leaders were in survival mode amid anti-government protests and the prospect of again coming into the crosshairs of Israel and the US. Which maybe this is them being in the crosshairs. Maybe this is a Israel-US op. It might be. But either way, it is still, I expect, what the people actually want. Iran's government has in recent years weathered wave upon wave of nationwide protests challenging its rule by resorting to force. For the first time, the country's rulers face a more complex challenge, growing domestic unrest combined with an external military threat. The government appears at a dead end in addressing both, with no clear strategy for reversing the economic collapse fueling protests, nor any signs that Iran's leaders are willing to make the concessions on their nuclear program sufficient to appease Israel and the US and ward off the risk of another round of strikes. There was a lot of skepticism, wasn't there, around the time of Trump's strikes on Iran's nuclear program, a lot of skepticism as to whether what he had done anything. Well, it certainly looks like it probably did. It certainly implies it. It's not like it did nothing. But then again, it was never going to topple the country on its own, but it would have added up to a sort of collective, a joint effort of multiple factors. But the economic effort appears to have been the straw that broke camel's back here. The protests have convulsed Iran for a week, though they have not reached the size and scope of the last two major uprisings, one in 2022 led by women, apparently, another in 2019 set off by gasoline prices. They have rattled senior officials and drawn a prompt reaction from the US and Israel. Trump threatened to intervene, saying in a social media post on Friday that if Iran killed peaceful protesters, the US would come to their aid, adding, "We are locked and loaded and ready to go." Many would be dubious of that prospect. Of course, it's the Middle East. It's a supposed uprising against an authoritarian dictatorship, and the US is proposing boots on the ground. It's all the same hallmarks. Nothing to add to that. It's all the same hallmarks. As I said, the only thing is it might be different with Trump, but you have to trust him. And a lot of us don't as much as we used to. The Israeli foreign minister and several government officials have spoken out on behalf of the protesters. Israeli, okay. Gila Gamliel, Israel's Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, said in the video posted on social media on Thursday, "Israel is with you and we support you in every way possible." I'm not sure that's actually a good thing to say. A lot of Iranians really don't like their dictatorship, but also don't like Israel. On Saturday, the US military attacked Venezuela. It's a story we already covered today. Iran's leaders and political figures have sounded rattled and shocked. The ramifications for Tehran cannot be overstated. Ali Golhaki, a hardline pundit in Iran, said in a phone interview that the dire state of the economy had played a central role in the downfall of the leader in both Venezuela and Syria, creating a maelstrom of public discontent and dispirited security forces. The lesson for Iran is that we must be extremely careful that the same scenario does not happen here, Mr. Golhaki said. When the anti-riot police, security forces and the military are struggling for their livelihood, the defense lines collapse. They sure do, especially if the security forces agree with the protesters. That's ultimately when it happens, is when the military or, well, security forces stop actually preventing the protesters. Now, at that point, it's pretty much over, depending on what the military do, but usually they side with the people in that case. On Friday, after Mr. Trump made his threat to strike Iran, the country's Supreme National Security Council, the body in charge of internal and external security, held a late-night emergency meeting to discuss how to contain the protests with less violence to avoid fueling public anger. They also wanted to prepare for the possibility of military strikes, according to 3 Iranian officials familiar with government deliberations, who asked not to be named because they were discussing sensitive issues. Could be anyone. The 3 officials said that as the protests raged, senior officials in private meetings had conversations had acknowledged that the Islamic Republic had been thrust into survival mode. Officials appear to have few tools at their disposal to deal with either the pressing challenges of a tanking economy fueling unrest or the threat of further conflict with Israel and the US. President Masoud Pezeshkian has repeatedly said as much publicly in recent weeks, at one point announcing that he had no ideas for solving Iran's many problems. I'm sure that helped citizen confidence. Any policy in the society that is unjust is doomed to fail, he said in a speech on Thursday, his first public address since the protest began, except that we must listen to the people. He's making the right noises, but he's still part of the regime, in some sense. So I don't think he's going to last, if the regime doesn't anyway. Things the government has done so far to address the nation's economic woes, such as replacing the governor of the central bank and announcing changes to the currency policy, have accomplished little. Really fixing the economy would require major policy changes that would result in a nuclear deal with Washington to lift sanctions and a crackdown on corruption. Iran's government appears either incapable of such steps or unwilling to take them. If you get to the point that you'd rather your nation collapse than deal with the corruption, probably should collapse. And at least, to be rebuilt shortly thereafter by more worthy people. Analysts say that the country's woes are intertwined. The economy was seriously damaged by American sanctions on oil sales and international banking transactions, imposed in 2018 when Mr. Trump exited the nuclear deal with Tehran. After the UN Security Council brought back sanctions in September, the Iranian currency plunged further. Rampant corruption and mismanagement have also played a role. Speaking of this, right, I'm not sure Israel would actually be happy with this. Of course, they've made noises to imply that they are. They kind of have to. But I'm not sure this is what Israel actually wants. Israel and Iran have been rivals for a long time. You might think that makes it obvious that Israel would want Iran to collapse. But I'm not sure they do. And the reason is for the same reason that they probably don't mind too much having the Palestinians, if that's what you want to call them, right on their doorstep, constantly creating small-scale violence, because that helps the regime. It creates a excuse for authoritarian powers. It's a natural thing that always happens in any regime. When there's a threat just on the border, power tends to accumulate with the collective. It's a natural human response. The same thing is true of Iran, but it's not specifically because of the threat from Iran. Because when Iran and Israel bomb each other, Israel's usually much more dominant, but the damage is relatively little. And it's not that common it happens either. It's more so that Iran funds a bunch of terrorist groups in the area, including Hezbollah in Palestine, or whatever you want to call it. At least that's my understanding. And that is beneficial to Israel because it maintains a constant threat narrative. If there was no threat narrative, if the Middle East was as peaceful as various parts of it have been over the last 50 to 100 years, then I don't know if Israel would be as authoritarian. I don't think it could be. And that's not in the interest of the current leadership. So I think with the US's help, they've been, it varies, of course, by different presidents in different ways, and all kinds of different factors there. But generally speaking, they've been maintaining chaos in the area. I think Trump has actually kind of broken from that a bit. He pulled out from the nuclear deal with Tehran and then bombed the nuclear sites. He's actually done things that are just roughly as they appear to be. Kind of with the Venezuelan thing. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of backroom shit going on there, but the main reason for that was because Maduro is a fucking asshole. And he's been messing around for the last few decades, or however long he's been in power. His regime that has also preceded him has been messing around for longer. And that I think is probably the main thrust. Obviously, there's other reasons too, but that's probably the main thrust. At the very least, what Trump did seems a natural thing to do. If you want to free Venezuela, that's what you'd do. Same thing with Iran. He's doing things that comport with what you'd expect someone to do if their motive was just the straightforward, obvious one. I want to weaken Iran. Okay, well then pull out of any deals you have with them and bomb nuclear sites they have so they can't nuke anyone. Obviously, there's more to it than that, stuff in the background, but I think that's the main thrust of it, again. So Trump is way too friendly with Israel, way too close with them, way too nice to them. He seems to sometimes just do what they say, but I'm not sure on that. And we're all very disappointed that Israel first seems to come slightly before America first quite often. But there have been some strong signs that Trump is not very happy with Israel and that he's not very happy being bossed around like this. I don't know if this is actually what Israel would have wanted. The collapse of Iran might have been better for the US and not so good for Israel. I'm not sure about that. It's maybe a bit too optimistic to think of Trump doing something against Israel's interests. But wouldn't that be good? Adding to Iran's troubles is the continuing conflict with Israel. Israel has carried out assassinations and explosive targeting at nuclear and military structures, while Iran has armed and financed militant groups in Lebanon, Gaza, and the West Bank. There's not particularly a good argument as to whether assassinations and targeting nuclear and military structures is what you would do if you wanted the wars to continue. But doing nothing might allow things to simmer down. Attacks like this that don't end things would just keep things hot. So it's compatible with my theory. Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran in June, setting off a 12-day conflict that culminated with the United States bombing and heavily damaging Iran's nuclear facilities. And yeah, it's worth mentioning, as they do, that Israel started that. This past week, the three officials familiar with government talks said concern had been rising that if domestic instability continued, Israel would see an opening to strike again. The remarks by Mr. Trump and Israeli officials added to those fears. The officials added. That's not very well worded. Smoke after Israeli strikes in Tehran in June. Two emergency meetings with the Economic Advisory Committee last week, asking for guidance and for written talking points of the crises deepen, according to two officials familiar with the details of the meeting who, like some others who interviewed for this article, requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. Key decisions made by Supreme Leader. On Saturday, Ayatollah Khomeini took a harder line than the president, saying in a public speech that rioters must be put in their place. And blaming foreign enemies or for the devaluation of Iran's currency and other economic problems. It could be. Honestly, could be. Chat, do we know of any groups that don't like the Iranian regime who are good at currency manipulation? It very easily could be them. He did, though, acknowledge that merchants in Tehran's bazaar had a right to protest against fluctuating prices. The current round of unrest started this past week with those merchants shuttering their shops in protest. As the strike spread to other cities, the government announced a 4-day nationwide holiday, ending Sunday to try and contain the situation. What? Let people go home, not work for the money they need? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, go home, have a bunch of free time. I'm sure that'll be fine. On Sunday, the majority of the shops in Tehran's bazaar remained closed, and there were reports of scattered... go home, have a bunch of free time, and none of the shops are open. I think that's probably going to lead to more rioting, to be honest. On Sunday, the majority of the shops in Tehran's bazaar remained closed, and there were reports of scattered protests and heavy presence of anti-riot police, according to videos on social media and Iranian media reports. In the past few days, the unrest has turned into riots in many places, with young men attacking government buildings, clashing with security forces and setting on fire cars, motorcycles and trash cans, according to videos posted on social media, Iranian media outlets and the BBC Persian service. So we could have a look. Khomeini is preparing to flee to Moscow. Yeah, I think I did see this, actually. We'll go into more details here. Intel confirmed by The Times states that Khomeini is preparing to flee to Moscow. Good. Islamic Republic is officially falling. It certainly looks like it. It could end up he goes back. This one says that doesn't really guarantee anything because he always ran away during protests like last year. Interesting. I suppose let's hope that it goes differently this time then. Some video footage here. We have a few videos of what's going on in Iran. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, we've also got some more footage here. This one actually. Interesting. Now watch closely. This guy on the bottom left, bottom right, spraying them with something. Looks like water. It's not water. it's some sort of inflammable liquid, gasoline perhaps. It was a makeshift flamethrower, and then look at him run! Look at him go! You'd think he might be about to get away, but unfortunately, he forgot about. Yeah, they have a bunch of bikes. So what it looks like happens here is he actually gets caught. But it's not for sure. But yeah, that's pretty hardcore though. Fucking flamethrowering the police. Must be a bit demoralizing for them. Okay, Took is continuing to send good stuff here. Thank you, Took. Daily Iran News is reporting a large number of US military assets have arrived in Europe and are headed to Israel. Exact movements were seen right before the 12-day war on Iran. This is so the US military assets coming to Britain is probably part of this operation, going to allied countries to then stage to go into Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guards begin missile and air defense exercises. Guys, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. At most, you can slow the US down a bit. Let's see what this is. Reports from multiple cities indicate that members of the public have raised the lion and sun flag in the streets. I'm not sure what that means exactly. I guess it's a different regime in Iran. Old Persian flag. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Large-scale anti-Islamist regime protests continue late into night across Iran. Seen a lot of rioting over the last few years, and sometimes it does something. What do you reckon, chat? I guess we'll have you do this now, but I'll ask again in a few minutes. Press 1 if nothing ever happens. Press 2 if something might be about to happen. Breaking, according to Israeli sources, the name of the currently planned operation on Iran is the Iron Strike. Netanyahu held 5 hours of security consultation. Security officials are currently discussing the appropriate date and time for the attack. 2 is the assumption for something might be about to happen, and I think I would maybe say 1 for nothing ever happens, if not for the fact that the US and Israel are looking to actually help. They're looking to actually fuck this country into oblivion. So yeah, chat's saying 2, which is interesting. Usually the prevailing narrative would be nothing ever happens, but it looks like something's about to happen. Venezuela and Iran toppled within like 2 or 3 days of each other. Say what you want, there's downsides you could perceive for sure, but I think that's a pretty big win for the world as a whole. Bit more footage here. Huge crowd is chanting, "This is the final battle. Pahlavi will return." I'm not sure what Pahlavi means. Maybe someone in chat knows. Dativille has said that there is some sort of coloured flag guide here. So, red flag of revenge. Iran announces its intention to enact revenge at some indeterminate point in the future. Since most dreams are never fulfilled, mostly nothing happens. Black flag of ambiguity. Iran raises a flag to vaguely hint at something that nobody knows the exact meaning of. Generally, nothing happens. The green flag of riddles. Iran announces its intention to pose 3 riddles. Nothing happens regardless of whether you answer the riddles correctly. The blue flag of ennui. Iran raises a flag to announce its restlessness and general dissatisfaction with the human condition. Nothing happens at all. The gold flag of unrequited love. Iran expresses a deep ache in its soul for the love of the ages that it knows will never be consummated. Nothing happens. The empty flag of human vanity. Iran does not raise a flag to signal that all existence is empty and thus all human striving is vanity. All is vanity and nothing happens. Just in, Iran raises the red flag of revenge. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think much is going to happen. I don't think they have much power at the moment. Chairman Xi says, "I was having a good day, but then I heard a helicopter fly by my office and no, I'm hiding beneath my desk." Oh no. Iran and Venezuela are both BRICS allies. Bye-bye. Honestly, you can see all kinds of problems with these topplings, but if you just see it as a battle between Anglosphere versus BRICS, this is a huge couple of wins in a very short span of time. Isn't Iran sometimes the I in BRICS? I think I suppose it can be, but I think it's usually India, Brazil, Russia, India, China. I can't remember what the S is. Someone in chat might know. South Africa. Is it South Africa? I was thinking it was South Africa, but then I thought that doesn't really make sense. I guess it could be just the black part of it. I guess they're in charge, aren't they? All right, let's. It's not Susan. That is a good point. It's not Susan. Brazil, Russia, India, China, spoon. Yeah, I mean, he does act that way. So, Iran. See what else we got. Islamic Republic's thugs are gunning down unarmed Iranian citizens in the streets of Iran. Okay, well, I'm going to open this, but be warned if you've got children watching, this video may contain a murder. I don't know yet.
14
Well, I didn't see anyone being hit, luckily, but I expect someone was. Those might not have been, full gunshots. They may have been blanks. They may have been beanbags or grenade launches, but they could have been gunshots. Oh, this guy, it's an interesting sign. Oh, okay. Well, apparently this guy says the majority of Iranians think like this. Iran will soon be free of the Islamic regime. It says, I am not Muslim, I am Persian, I hate Islam. I hope the majority of them think like that. That would be fucking cool. But I'm not sure. He has a name that implies he's from Iran. I'm willing to take his word for it, but that would be base, wouldn't it, Nachos? I hope that's true. Pray for the Christians in Iran. Oh, is that what the lion is? Based. Okay, good. Come on, Iran, you can do this person says. Day 8 of massive protests to free Persia. As it's reported in the Times, that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini is planning to flee to Moscow if the regime loses its grip on power. Silence from Starmer, obviously, it says. Oh, good. It's a lot of beeping. A lot of beeping. I think I'm feeling kind of the same way as this guy is. Come on, Iran, you can do this. I can't do much from here, but come on, Iran. I kind of just want to see them topple their dictator. I think this is it's just I think it's going to be a good thing. Young women in Iran are defying the regime's morality police, forced hijab, and are singing in the streets. This is what true resistance looks like, she says. Where are the Western leftists now who supported Hamas and Gaza? Why are they all silent? Free the people of Iran. Fine, yeah. It's one point the feminists and the rest of us can at least somewhat agree on. Although, of course, it's not just the women that are oppressed in Iran. Display demos of Iran are weird from an Islamic Republic. Okay, this is the religious demos. See, Shiite Muslim, none, and atheist as distinct. 30% of Iran are atheist, or agnostic, whatever you want to say. And you got Zoroastrian, 7%. Christian, 1.5 is quite low, actually. Humanist. Sufi Muslim, Sunni Muslim, and then Shiite Muslim. Isn't Shiite the slightly less bad one? I can't remember. Live. Trump warns Iran against deadly crackdown as protest death toll hits 19. I don't think the leadership of Iran have much control over it at this point, to be honest. The only thing they can do is just tell the security forces to stand down and let the people win. Either they stand down and let the people win, or they let Trump have all the casus belli he needs. The thing is, they're moving troops in now, after this all started. I don't think they knew this was going to happen. I think this was natural. I think this is unexpected. Wouldn't that be amazing, chat? After all the suspicions of conspiracy, wouldn't it be cool if this was just the people's doing and no one planned it, no one did to subvert anything, to make it happen? That the currency manipulation wasn't Israel, it was just fuckery. They just messed up. The economy just failed. It's interesting. The fact that everything's moving all at once, using even fairly loud movements like into Britain where it's a bit suspicious. No, because it all happened at once. Trump wars Iran against deadly crackdown. A few years ago, Iran's Revolutionary Guard begins a military exercise, including launching missiles and testing air defense systems, according to Iranian television. Odd time with the protests going on, or is it? No, I think they're about to be ass fucked by the US and Israel. Below, you will see what the State Department posted in Farsi. President Trump is a man of action. If you didn't know, now you know. This, of course, came after Trump warned Iran. You could at least say, even though Starmer is probably not going to dedicate anything to this, he is at least allowing the US to run military through the UK. So he is implicitly supporting this, which might not go down well with some of the leftists in this country. Good. Nacho says, I think this has been simmering for a long time. They saw Venezuela. They have no food, no water, so they said it's now or never. Fuck it. Maybe. The Venezuela situation might have instigated this. But again, I don't think the US or Israel knew in advance this was going to happen. And if they did, they didn't prepare that well, which is odd. Ghost says, consider maybe Trump moved on Maduro because he was expecting the Iran situation to spiral. Then that went really fast and Iran spiraled faster, so he decided to double down. Yeah, I mean, it's a good time for it. Fucking go. Honestly, Trump, fucking go for it. Below, you'll see what the State Department posted in Farsi. According to one military blog, multiple C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft just stopped in the UK on their way to Europe. We saw similar movements like this before the US bombed Iran in the 12-day war. The Ayatollah Khomeini is getting backed into a corner. He's very paranoid. I don't know why they're spelling it so badly. Watching very closely, Israel hold a cabinet meeting tonight as well. Okay, so there you go. I assume this guy is maybe Iranian, or I don't know. He has an American flag. It might just be retarded. Let's see what else we got here. Traffic gridlock. We saw that video. The man has solved 6 or 7 conflicts this year. Oh no! Iran enters the 8th night of national protests against the regime, and armed citizens have now taken to the streets. 43% chance the supreme leader loses power this year, according to a betting system called Polymarket. Remember that Nepal's socialist government fell last year? It very much did, indeed, which is good. Israel won. Okay. The streets of Iran are an actual war zone. This is the province where we now have reports that citizens have armed themselves and formed a real militia. Atuk is saying that the Polymarket estimate has now gone up to 50% for a regime change. Ghost says, I am updating my position to nothing ever happens in a year that isn't 2026. We are 5 days in, and we're about to have a second major BRICS-aligned regime change. It's going quite well so far. Maybe this is the omen that 2026 will be a good year. Ginger, that wasn't a poll. I think they're much more stable now, although I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it really. Khomeini's thugs murdering people on the streets and in the hospitals. Protested dousing Khomeini's thugs with gasoline. I saw that. Yeah. A young woman in Iran dances with her hair uncovered. My God. How did she get this good at dancing? Where has she been practicing without her hijab on? To the regime, that's 2 crimes, no hijab, and dancing. She's not bad for someone that was not allowed to do this, is she? They blurred all the faces, which is probably a good idea. Breaking news from Iran. Iranians in occupied Iran fighting against Khomeini and the terrorist Islamic regime are cheering for President Trump. That's interesting. Pahlavi is our king. Trump is on our side. I don't know who Pahlavi is. Maybe it's the guy they want to replace the leadership. Trump is on your side, unironically, and that's gotta be a big deal. Hey, Aiden, you should love this. They want the king back. I'm okay with that. Better than what they've got now. I bet Aiden's asleep. Okay. A woman in Iran publicly and bravely removes her hijab, defying her conscious oppression to the regime. There you go. Dancing and singing. Like, modesty is not bad, but Islam takes it too far, I think. So yeah, as was mentioned before, 43% chance as of 3 hours ago. Iran's in the middle of a revolution fighting to get rid of the Islamic Republic, and CBC doesn't mention a word about it. The media controls the narrative in our country that can't be tolerated. Several killed in Iran during violent protests sparked by economic conditions. I mean, that they are talking about it. I don't know. Maybe they're not saying enough. But for this guy, there it is again. The Islamic terrorist regime is now invading a hospital in Ilam to abduct and murder injured Iranian citizens. I doubt that's literally their reason. There's probably something else. Like maybe they're using the hospital as a staging ground for the militia. I wouldn't be surprised. It's good optics if they do try to attack you. Right, calm down, love. Calm down, love. It's only a violent insurgency. See if we hear a gunshot. Chaos. I'm glad I'm not there. Police officer setting fire to a portrait of Khomeini and writing the slogan, Javid Shah, long live the Shah. Shah, I assume, is their word for king? Or close enough anyway? Damn, yeah, it's a police officer doing this. He's got a wall ready. Never seen anyone spray paint in a different language, or like in a non-Latin language, non-Latin alphabet language. Well, there he goes. Chat, are we in agreement? Press 1 if king is better than Islamic dictator. I think we're probably on board with that one. Protesters still in the streets of Iran tonight, vowing to revenge those who murdered by Khamenei's. You got to understand, Tommy Robertson is illiterate. You can't expect him to type properly. All right, good. I mean, that's unrelated to what's currently happening in Iran, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I think we'll wrap up there then, chat. We'll keep an eye on it, but things may have changed a lot by tomorrow morning. The situation is very much developing. And my guess would be, yes, they'll be toppled with probably a small amount of US intervention, but probably not all that much. But it might not need any, but if there will be any, it'll be a small amount. So we'll see. And it may be in the next 12 hours we see intervention. So there's that. We're not going to have an all-night schizo stream to see if the revolution wins before morning. No, but if something significant has developed tomorrow, I might do another stream tomorrow, even though that would be off schedule. You're watching the intervention. The November 5th election leads to all this. Next up, Trump crashes the Somalian civil war and sends Minnesotans back. Yeah. There's a lot of potential to do some great things here, but we are observing, I think, overall, 2 good regime changes happening right now. They could well go bad, but is it good that the regime is changing in both cases? Yes. I think that would be my conclusion. Thank you for watching this recorded segment. Come join the actual streams and come join the community, cabal.oozlu.net or cuck.shortfightertaco.com. And there's loads more going on. This recorded segment is just a segment of the wider stream where we do a lot more community interaction. We talk on other smaller news stories, and the community itself is very active. Come join. Thank you for watching. We'll keep an eye on this. You may see more videos about it. Subscribe to this channel, and there should be more edited segments like this. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.